Hello and welcome to the Be Glad movement. My name's Pollyanna and I'm on a mission to bring you as many stories as possible of good coming out of bad and reasons to be glad. And today I'm joined by Chris. Say hello, Chris.
Hi, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to get out of the way and let you get stuck in and start telling your story. So over to you.
Okay, great. Thanks. So, where do we start?
Yeah, exactly.
I suppose as a kid, mixed childhood, really. My father did one, I think I was about 5 years old, which, to be honest, I don't remember too much about it. I remember the odd fight between my mum and my dad, and there was a couple of incidents around after he'd left that stick in my mind. I have only ever spoken to him once in the next 30 plus years now. It is what it is, but it's something that's, I think, always affected me. It's something that just sits in the background and has always bothered me.
Yeah.
But the rest of my childhood, to be honest, up until I was 15, was pretty normal. I quite enjoyed school, did okay. To be honest, could have done a lot better, but I was just really bone idle because if it doesn't challenge me, I can't be bothered with it. And I'm still the same now at 39. So,
Right.
But in my last year of senior school, I was incorrectly diagnosed with lymph node cancer. It was glandular fever in the end, but I don't know how they came to the cancer conclusion, but whatever.
Wow, that must have been really scary.
Do you know what? Again, because I was so ill with it. There was some other virus as well that I couldn't tell you what it was, but because I was so out of it and I lost so much weight and I was so ill, I missed the last year at school and I was either in hospital or at home, and I was just out of it for most of the time.
Right.
And my mum and my stepdad at the time were told on my 16th birthday that it was glandular fever and not cancer. So it took me about another 12 months after that to really recover. I mean, at 15, 16 years old, it's hard enough to put weight on anyway as a string bean of a boy. But I dropped to some ridiculous weight. So spent the next sort of year getting back to normal. Managed to pass all my GCSEs above C. Just went in for the exams and still got offered a place in sixth form, which I should have been grateful for, but wasn't, because again, I was 16, heading 17 and just wanted to go out with mates and drink and all the rest of it.
Sure.
So 6 months into sixth form, I didn't sack it. I got sacked, basically. I got told to get out and not come back.
Right.
Mucked around in a couple of part-time jobs. Got kicked out twice from home, and one basically had enough of me. I had a massive attitude problem. I was a bit of a scally, just kicking around with my mates, causing mischief. And then she kicked me out a third time, and I stayed at a friend's house because his mum and dad were away. And we were in a car crash. Basically wrote his mum's brand new motor off. So I got obviously delivered home by the police. And she dared me to join the army, and she didn't mean it. It was just a knee-jerk reaction to me being a bit of a pillock. So I did it because I knew she didn't mean it. And that's the whole reason I joined the army. There was never any intention before that to be in the military at all. And I ended up doing 14 years in total. So I don't know what would have happened to me if I hadn't joined, obviously, but I would hazard a decent amount of money that it would have probably ended in prison or something. I was just that way out. I was just an idiot boy hanging around with the wrong people sometimes. But so joined the military, did the usual, got thrashed through basic training, loved it. Best thing I ever did. Went to Germany after all of my training had been complete, and had the best 3 years of my life in Germany. It was still to this day, nothing's ever beaten it. It was absolute carnage in the best way possible. Right. Worked really, played harder as well. And then I did a tour of Bosnia while I was out there, then came back, got posted back to the UK, and then went to Iraq. And in between that period of time, I'd met my to-be wife. We'd only been together a few months when I deployed to Iraq, and it was what I would call, certainly back in those days when I was young, a typical army marriage.
Right.
We'd known each other 6 months, and we were like, oh, we love each other, we want to be together. came back from Iraq, got married. She got pregnant with Paige, my eldest. We moved in together, and to be honest, everything was all right. And then Paige was born really premature. She was 26 weeks, 27 weeks, weighed 2.2 pounds, had all kinds of issues. Bless her. She's fine now. She's 14 and scares the life out of me daily on Facebook and stuff because she's 14 going on 25. But yeah, but that had a real impact on mine and Sue-Ann's marriage, and therefore, but I think both our mental health at the time. Sue-Ann, my ex-wife, couldn't bond with Paige because she was in an incubator for 3 months. So she had really bad postnatal depression. I was only 24 at the time. Didn't know how to do it. I was still a kid. Now I look back, I was still a kid myself. I hadn't grown up. And we ended up having another daughter, Charlie, a couple of years later. But to be honest, a young family, typical money worries and all the rest of it, and it just drove us apart in the end. And we separated in 2008, February in 2008, and that was, I think, the first time that I probably realised that I went really backwards, and I turned into a recluse to start with, just disappeared within myself, didn't want to do anything, know anyone, and then that very quickly I flipped it 180 and went completely the other way and ended up just turning to alcohol, to be honest. Would I say I was an alcoholic? I don't know, probably not, because I was still functioning at work, still getting up for work every day. I wasn't going in absolutely hammered, but I turned to it to sort of maybe blank everything else out. It was just a coping mechanism rather than sitting in my room and dwelling on everything.
Self-numbing,
Yeah, definitely. And it worked for a while. Not that I'd obviously promote doing that in any way, shape or form, because, well, alcohol's a depressant, isn't it? So it wasn't doing me any favours. It was just making me worse in the long run. But I came through that, and then 2009, a good friend of mine in the army, he ended up splitting up with his wife when he came back from Afghanistan. Went through exactly the same as me. He had kids. It was a really rough breakup. And the army posted him away a couple of months after it happened. And us as mates thought we were doing the right thing. We'd all rallied around him. And the army posted him. I don't know the reasons for it. They sent him away basically to another camp. And I think about 2 weeks later, he hung himself. He killed himself. And it's still, to this day, I don't know. I couldn't be consoled. It broke me, and there was a lot of anger involved, because I blamed the army at that point. And that, to be honest, pretty much finished my army career. I did another couple of years while I sort of half sorted my life out, and then left under a bit of a cloud, really. But I did. I was not in a good place. But once I'd pressed the button to leave, obviously you have to give a year's notice in the military, don't you? So I sort of found my feet again, and to be honest, I lived life again, actually. I was just back on it. I was like, right, I'm going out with a bang here. But I was still suffering in one way because, again, I was just numbing it all. And then I panicked when I got to actually leaving because I hadn't planned anything, and ended up out in Afghanistan as a contractor doing close protection. And again, I'd hit the reset button doing that. So I felt all right. I felt pretty good. And for the first 2 years, again, it was brilliant. Loved the job I was doing. But we were a really close sort of group out there who I worked with. And over time, obviously, people leave, go on to do different jobs. And I ended up taking up a manager's role and all the rest of it. And I think I became quite isolated in a lot of ways. Working day was absolutely fine. There was so much to be getting on with, and there was always people about. But on a night, you've got your own room, and I just used to sit there. And it started, without me realising in the beginning, it was starting to really drive me down. So this went on for probably a number of months, and without me realising, it just got worse and worse. Sure. I was having arguments with my then girlfriend every other day on FaceTime. And it was my fault. It's because I placed my head up my backside, basically, and and she was the only direction I could vent in. I couldn't show that I was struggling to my colleagues because I wouldn't do that. So I turned on her basically, and wrongly, and it just all culminated one night. We'd had a big row about something really insignificant, probably. Put the phone down, and I must have been laying in bed for hours when I couldn't sleep, but it wasn't odd for me not to sleep out there. I could go 2 or 3 nights without having any sleep sometimes, just because I to switch my brain off. It'd be work related or just the fact that I was winding myself up. So this night, it was just different, and I think it came to the point of breakdown. I'm not a crier. In fact, I always got told growing up that I need to show more emotion because I'd rather shut off than show emotion.
Right.
And I just broke down. I sat there lay there on my own, cried, went in the bathroom and didn't recognise myself in the mirror, and that was really scary. So I walked back in my room. My pistol was on my bedside table, and I just took it out of its holster and pointed it straight at myself. And I've used this with someone else that I spoke to recently. It really was, without sounding incredibly cheesy, a do or die moment.
Yeah.
Because at that point, I thought my family had had enough of me. They hadn't. They'd all been trying to help me, but I wasn't willing to accept any help.
Right.
So I was just, well, no one cares. What difference would it make if you did it? And this must have all happened in 2 or 3 seconds, this whole thought process. And I just put the pistol back down, went up onto the roof of the villa we were living in, and cried again. And I think I took about 5 years off my life in nicotine as well, because I've never smoked too many cigarettes. And I sat up there for the majority of the night, and I worked a lot of things out, I suppose. And it was like, well, the first thing you need to do is get yourself home, because this place now is driving you down. You can't leave yourself in the same situation. But I had very little, I don't know, very little sort of direction of anything positive to find at that point. I didn't think it was a positive thing that I had a girlfriend at home waiting for me.
Right.
The kids are all right without me, and all the rest of it, they're used to it. And I'd really had to drag myself out of it, and the only way to do that was find a new thing in my life to go and do. And it was like, go home, find a new job, find a new direction in life, and probably live what people would call a normal life, I guess, for the first time in nearly 20 years. So I did. I'd spent another year out there doing courses like after work and stuff, project management stuff, and came back and started in project management, which I'm still doing now. But after coming home, I split up with my girlfriend then, no biggie, and then moved back up north. So I thought, I'm going home, that's it, back up to the Leeds area, and really start to press the reset button and start again. Maybe connecting with people before all this had happened that I knew would help me.
Right.
And for a short period of time, I think it did. It's like you reconnect with old friends and all the rest of it, and you sort of get on with it, and a new job. So I was throwing myself into that. But again, I think without realising it, it started manifesting itself as anger, but really rational anger. It could be the stupidest thing, and I'd absolutely flash. So it's like I used to bottle things up, and then the strangest thing had set me off, and I'd want to go out and just rip someone's head off. And again, you can't go on like that. So I ended up being recommended to a charity called Save Our Soldier. Probably should say at this point, when Paige was born, my eldest, shortly after, I went about 2 sessions of counselling to try and work out how I was going to cope with the postnatal depression of Sue-Ann and the baby and everything else. And I hated it. All it did was drag up my past and made me worse.
Yeah. It's not for everyone.
No, exactly. It really isn't. And maybe I could have given it more of a go, but I wasn't in the right headspace to do it. I wasn't willing to take that on, so I didn't do it. So I was recommended to Save Our Soldier because they do more the cognitive behaviour treatment.
Yeah.
And I can't praise them enough for what they did over just a few sessions with me with a coach.
Awesome.
A lot of the same thoughts and negativities can still be there with me, but I've trained myself through them. Instead of crossing that line and being angry or upset, whatever it may be, it's to take a step back from that line rather than step over it. And it's unbelievable. so basic, the things that they had me do, whether it be a breathing technique or a bit of, you shut my eyes, a bit of imagination. And it just, I don't know if it just distracts me from what's got me to the point of, my God, the world's ended, which is just ridiculous. But it worked, and I say it worked. I still have slumps. Even one day I can be on cloud nine, the next day I can feel like I'm in the doldrums, but I can pull myself out of it now where I couldn't before.
Right.
But it very quickly became that life was 9 to 5, go home, watch the telly, and I could feel myself again going backwards because I was sat with a lot of time to just think, man, I was like, right, I need to find something to do here, something that I'm passionate about, something where I can potentially help others. I'd eventually grown a set I left it far too long to dwell in my own mess and not be willing to speak to anyone. So initially just started blogging about my own stories around mental health, and how the day that I told someone that I wasn't well was like the world had been lifted off my shoulders.
Awesome.
It was like, even for someone to say, do you know what, mate, it's not that bad. It can be fixed. And you're like, oh, okay. It just needed someone else to say it, but it couldn't be someone from my family, because I was like, I'm not willing to put myself in that situation.
Yeah.
So someone from the outside was like, it's not too bad, we can deal with this. And I was like, oh, okay. And from there, that's where it went.
Yeah.
And then it was about reconnecting with the things I've always enjoyed doing, whether that be the outdoors or just trying to help others. I've always been quite receptive to helping others a little bit. So I started blogging about mental health, just telling my story really. And if one person gets a positive out of it and goes, you know what, if that idiot can do it, then so can I can speak up as well. So that's how it started. Then me and Richie, who's everyone knows on Twitter because he's not always got an opinion about something, small syndrome, we started going out walking together into the hills and started blogging about that as well. And I used to relate that back to my headspace and how it was helping me. And it was like pressing a reset button for me. And we're still doing it now, but we've moved now into this charity work that we're doing with Jordan Wiley and the Frontline Children team, where we're off to Island Peak in the Himalayas next year. We've just completed one in October to Everest Base Camp for a couple of other charities. And all these things are, for me, is just keeping me busy. And if I'm busy, I'm not sat in my own head stewing on things.
Sure.
But I could be busy doing anything. But if I can positively impact someone else's life, whether it be these young kids in these war-torn countries that struggle to get an education through Frontline Child, or someone that reads a blog or speaks to me on Twitter and goes, like I said, well, he can do it, so do you know what, so can I. And that's it really. It's just I used to concentrate on negatives all the time. My life's crap, my life's this, my life's that, why bother? Whereas now I can still have those moments, completely still have those moments, but I'm like, well, actually, mate, you've got X, Y, and Z to look forward to. You are making a positive impact out there. Stick with it. And what I normally do is go off and find something else to do as well. I rarely get a minute to myself. Again, that's how I like to be. And I've not really changed the way I live so much. I think I've grown up. I've accepted that there was issues, which was always going to be the biggest thing. I've grown up off the back of that, probably. I've stopped thinking the world owes me a favour, and actually I can do some positive and give back a little bit. And it just the effect that's had on me. When someone it could be anything on social media, someone just messages me and said, "Oh, I've just read your thing and fantastic, thank you." It's brought me out of myself a little bit. I'm like, great. I'm not accountable. I'm not anything like that. I'm who I am, and I've learned to be honest, accept that there's flaw, whatever it is. And now at work as well. So I'm now a mental health champion, they call it, at work. So supporting people at work as well.
That's cool.
Yeah, and it's more at work. It's more an education thing, and trying to, again, like everything with mental health, it's trying to release that stigma around it.
Sure.
If someone having a bad time, it doesn't mean they can't do the job or anything else. It just means they're having a bit of a bad time and need a bit of leeway and a bit of help out of it.
Exactly.
So, and that's been really positive as well. So it's sort of threefold for me. One, I'm occupied, so I'm happy, I'm good. Two, I'm helping others, however little it may be. Do you know what I mean? If I feel, it makes me feel better about myself. So there is a selfish element to it, because it makes me feel better as well. And three, just with the CBT stuff from Save Our Soldier, I've just got that coping mechanism of not going backwards too far. Like I say, I can have bad days, which I think anyone can have, and I need to be aware it can just be a bad day. It doesn't have to be that I've blown my own head up again. It's just I'm having a bit of a rubbish day.
Yeah.
And just accept it, wake up the next morning and go again.
Totally.
And that's it, really.
Yeah, it's really interesting what you said about, I mean, you said right at the very beginning when you were talking about being a teenager and being at school, that it didn't really interest you, it didn't really keep you occupied, your mind occupied. And that seems to be a theme that's run throughout your story, because when you found yourself sitting in a room on your own, that's when you start stewing in your own juices. Because I think the human brain is sort of naturally wired to look for danger, and so if everything's okay, that's fine. We don't go, oh yeah, everything's okay. Our brains are always looking for something to moan about, something to fix, and your active mind wants a problem to solve. And so I love that you're now channeling that energy into, you know, the challenges that you're doing with the other guys, and helping other people, and it's helping you. It's a win-win, isn't it? I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and I think stuff like this that you're doing with Be Glad and the other things out there, like I did the D Class podcast with Mike Coates a couple of months ago, which has just come out. It's all just, it's releasing that stigma and giving people that, do you know what, I can actually say something and people aren't going to judge me for it. There'll always be, for me, negative people out there. And I suppose I used to be one in a lot of ways, you know. Do you know what I mean? I'd be like, what's up with him? Or what's up with her? That awful phrase, man up. But that was a big saying going through the military. You just got told to man up.
Yeah.
And it's just been a shift in perception for me that, do you know what? There's nothing, there is something wrong, but it's something that I would imagine 9.9 times out of 10 can be fixed just by opening up a little bit. And there's normally tends to be help out there, I've found now. It's finding that balance between, I think, reaching out to people and then themselves reaching back. Because like me, I wasn't ready at any point up until I finally put my hand up. Anyone could have come to me and said, are you okay? This, that, and other. And I'd have gone, don't want to talk about it. Nothing wrong with me. Doesn't interest me. Leave it alone. I'm fine. So I think there's got to be that acceptance. But I think, and probably certainly from the military side, I would imagine a lot of people are the same, that they need that, like say, that element of danger, adrenaline, all the rest of it. The adrenaline side, when I left, I missed that. Like this year as well, me and the lads are off back skydiving, going to jump out of a plane again. It's just, it's just something I enjoy doing because it scares the life out of me. I hated heights. That's why I went parachuting in the first place when I was in the military, stuff like that. I'm just, well, a bit of a wally, to be honest. But yeah, it's just trying to find positives constantly, and like you say, constantly occupy my brain and challenge myself. When I'm not challenged, I get bored, complacent, and to be honest, I can be a bit of a pain in the backside. I'm like a naughty kid. I'm pestering people and annoying people because I'm bored, so I just annoy everyone else.
Right.
Yeah. I've grown up properly yet.
What was I going to say? I thought of something really interesting to say then, and well, not really interesting. I was going to comment, but it's completely gone out of my mind again. That's so annoying when that happens, especially when you're in an interview. What was I going to say? That's really annoying. No, it's completely gone out of my mind.
Completely disappeared.
Yeah, it really has completely gone out of my mind. I was thinking about, what was I thinking? Oh, I remember. Sorry about that, folks. When you were sitting in your room and being bored, and it was just that you said it just sort of crept up on you because from an outsider looking in, there was nothing wrong. You know, had a good job, you enjoyed your job, you had a room to sleep in, you know, there's nothing apart from obviously you were arguing with your girlfriend, but you were arguing with your girlfriend because of the isolation that you were feeling each night. But anyone, you think, oh, that's not a big deal. But when you're living that reality day in and day out, and you are lonely essentially day in and day out, and you think, oh, I'm a big roughy tufty guy, I shouldn't be lonely, or I shouldn't be, you know, this isn't a problem for me. But it creeps in on you. That's the nasty thing about mental health issues. It kind of creeps in on you and drags you down slowly.
Yeah.
You get to the point where you were, and thank goodness that you made that decision not to pull the trigger. And it was almost like you hit that low point to be able to then push yourself back up again, and it got you thinking about what needed to change.
Yeah, I think I needed that shock, to be honest. Just that moment of realization of, wow, you're just really not where you need to be right now. Like you say, okay, let's accept this is now rock bottom. You're not going to get any lower, and start climbing the ladder back up, I suppose. And a big way of dealing with that has been connecting with other people that have gone through similar things. But again, it was that element of me having to first confess, or at least admit that I had mental. I've never been diagnosed with anything formally, and I was really conscious of that. I didn't want to be, because I think nowadays they're very quick to throw the PTSD label out. And I always felt a bit of a fraud with that. Before I'd spoken to people, I was like, it feels a bit, because PTSD is normally, as much as it isn't just linked to combat related in the military, it could be anything that causes that PTSD. I was like, well, who am I to, like you say, I've got a good job, I've got a roof over my head, I've got money in the bank. You've got these lads who have been in whatever it may be, IED attacks, everything else, suffering. Who the hell am I to put my hand up and say, do you know what, I'm not feeling great either, because I've really not got a lot to complain about. And it was really that acceptance that it doesn't matter. Your own problems are your own problems. You can't relate them to anyone else's and compare. Sure. Otherwise, you'll always find someone else who you see as worse off, I guess, and go, well, I'm all right then. And before you know it,
that's actually funny you say that, because that's one of the biggest things that worries me about this whole situation with mental health awareness, is that people feel that they're not entitled to feel poorly, that they're not entitled to have mental health issues. But it can affect anyone. You know, you don't have to have been a serving soldier. You could be any Joe Bloggs on the street and have mental health issues. It can creep up, like I said, when I was commenting on you saying about being in your room on your own. Something so small, like a little worm getting in your head, and it can really start to drag you down.
It felt like self-punishment, to be honest. It felt like I was just constantly torturing myself, but I couldn't stop doing it.
Right.
I didn't know how to not do it. Sort of once I think it crept into a certain point, I could almost talk to myself in my head and go, what you're winding yourself up about? But that would just wind me up more. It was properly angel and devil on my shoulder type thing, and I was just like, are you going absolutely crazy here? And so there was all kinds of factors, but like I say, we got to that low point, and I was like, right, that's it, sort it out now. And I'm still traveling down that road and still trying to improve. I'm still even adapting to being back in the UK properly, and I've been back, over 2 years now. Still taking some adjusting to. Still want to throttle people in work, but I've learned very quickly you can't do that in a civilian environment. But it's just, I'm just in probably a better place now than I've been since I was, I don't know, maybe 19, 20. So I look at that now and I'm like, so for 20 years you really were yourself then. Or you weren't the best version of yourself that you could have been, almost. And a lot of that was due to me just living inside my own head, and like I say, for a long time thinking that everyone owed me a favour. It was a really negative attitude to add, and it would have fed the whole mental health thing with me, because I was just, can't be bothered with this, can't be bothered with that. It can come to me when I go out there and find it, and to my own detriment more often than not. So and it's just been a complete mind shift for me. which is why I'm loving what I'm doing now with the other guys and Jordan and the frontline team and all that. I just can't wait, to be honest, raring to go with it.
Awesome. I love that you're channeling your energy into positive things now. But also, I just wanted to say about the whole CBT, the cognitive behavioural therapy. And did you say you worked with a coach as well?
It was a Save Our Soldier coach. That's what they called them, and he
Yeah.
was ex-military as well. So we instantly had that connection. It was like I'd known him for ages when the first time he appeared at my house. And for the first session, we just really talked, but without really covering anything. But I found myself opening up without him pushing me to open up. Because he wasn't pushing me, I felt more open to talking. Right. And then through the second and third sessions, we went more through the coping mechanisms and all that. And at the end of the third session, he was like, I think you're going to be okay here. I think you can do this. He says, what I'll do now is leave you alone, but you've always got my mobile number. You've always got the office number for where they're based. If you ever think you're back at a low point or you think you're heading back there, probably before you get back there, get in touch with us. We'll always be there. And just knowing that there's always that someone to speak to who knows me and understands me and go, yeah, I'm not great at the minute. He could probably talk me around now in 5 minutes and I'll be like, yeah, okay. And it would probably just be a reluctance from me because I got that low that I can't be bothered. But I don't think I'm heading back there. Like I say, as long as I'm occupied and doing things, and like I say, the positive side of life now and trying to help others through whatever it may be, then I'm golden.
Cool. I think, it's great that you've got that little sort of toolbox of the breathing techniques, the CBT, all those things that work for you. And it's like we all have our ups and downs, our good days and our bad days, but if you've got those tools to fall back on, then you can pull them out as and when you need to. Yes. And mental health and keeping on top of it, it's just like, you don't have one shower and you're clean for the rest of your life. You don't go to the gym once and you come out like Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's something that you have to keep working at, isn't it? So I think it's brilliant that you got that help and you've now got those tools to keep you on track. That's very cool.
And the more I do it, the more natural it becomes. I do it now without really thinking about it a lot of the time, which is great, obviously, because I'm not having to concentrate on it so much. I just, oh no, I'm all right. And it's a really strange, I don't know, thought process I go through, because 1 minute I feel like I'm going to get angry or whatever else, and then the next I'm like, no, you're all right, it's not that bad. And I'm, oh, okay. It's weird. It's a constant conversation in my head. Good fighting bad, I suppose.
Cool. Well, I can only give you a massive thank you for sharing your story, and I hope that anyone watching this it will be inspired to go and get their own help. And even if they're not at a point where they think they're in desperate need of help, I still feel like having having the knowledge and being prepared for if anything does happen, if you do hit a low point, why not be prepared? It makes sense, doesn't it? And I think the more we can spread the message out there that it's real and it can get anybody, and be prepared, get as much help as you can, then that's very cool. So thank you so much for sharing your story. I really appreciate it, and I love the fact that doing all of this, you found a way of channeling your energy to help other people. That's very cool.
No, you're more than welcome. Just like you say, as long as it helps one person, then it's job done, and it's that's all it needs.
Cool. Thank you so much for joining me.
You're welcome.
Thank you. If you like this video, please do hit the like and subscribe button, and you'll get notifications when new videos are uploaded. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. If you search @BeGladMovement, Movement, you should be able to find us. And please do get in touch if you've got a story that you'd like to share. It doesn't matter if it's a story that's similar to somebody else's, because I really do believe your story in your voice has the ability to help someone in their time of need. So please do get in touch. And I look forward to seeing you in another episode. Many thanks.